Hello there, my name's Card. I'm a social sciences researcher with a long-standing interest in political organising. I've also recently taken to making short videos I can refer people back to in the future. So right now I'd like to go over something that I've been wanting to articulate to an audience for a long time now. That is, what an independent and otherwise left-wing person interested in mass movement politics can learn from observing something like just how insanely popular the QAnon conspiracy theory got with disaffected suburbanites a few years back. This video won't be attempting to explain the open-quote law of QAnon, nor will it be attempting to account for why so many previously normal, if politically disengaged, people the world over became so alienated from reality they happily went all in on a 4chan LARP. What this video aims to do is demonstrate just how much self-identified progressives can learn about spreading our message from looking at a case study like that. Because, quite frankly, if proselytizing people to a radical message is that easy, the fact that the only demographic that far-left views have a consistently strong base of support among is terminally online Zoomers means that we're letting the side down hard. I say that in large part because I want this video to also be something instructional I can point back to in the future. But regardless of how you in particular made it this far into my talk, you might as well listen to the rest of it. I've been involved with my fair share of independent little orgs, both pre-established and new, that take themselves seriously and often have some cause or another or are running some event that warrants promotion. And quite frankly, before I stepped in a lot of those cases, the vast majority of people involved had no clue how to accomplish any sort of promotion. That sounds arrogant, and it might be, but it's also accurate. Luckily, I don't believe in complaining about that sort of thing unless you're prepared to offer a solution either. So, if you're a progressive organizer, or want to be, keep listening. The rest of this video will most likely be worth your time. I'm going to go over how you actually propagandize, since most of my fellow leftists seem to have no clue about how to actually do that. I'll quickly go over a few theoretical points, then lay out a couple of real-life examples. First thing to mention, and most important thing to understand, is that while nowadays most advertising happens online, including yours, none of your actual organizing will happen online. Absolutely none of it whatsoever. It doesn't matter if your cause is land acknowledgement, pushing peace in the Middle East, trade unions, save the whales, or anything in between. You don't budge the status quo an inch by posting online alone. I've argued on this very channel before that you can have a lot of fun cyberbullying reactionaries and the like. And that's very true, but it definitely isn't praxis per se. Any and all online engagement of yours with people outside of your movement should only ever be in service of getting real-world, in-person eyes on your org. You're not there to debate the merits of your cause, right, wrong, or otherwise. It should be pure, pragmatic promotion. Before you get online, you'll have a project of some sort already. Whatever it is, write up your elevator pitch as concisely as possible and be ready to spread it. And don't meekly peddle around whatever online lefty echo chambers you browse for fun either. You need to get it into the face of real, local people who might actually be in a position to engage with you. Be absolutely shameless about it too. Treat online spaces exactly like if you were posting around town, and make sure to leave no wall underutilized. Should only take about a half hour to do a once around of all the social media pages, link aggregating sites, and public online forums for wherever you live specifically. If you get banned, blocked, or filtered out, you need to start making new accounts and just keep at it the next day. Doesn't matter if you're posting on some of the busiest pages on the web or on your small town's 200-person Facebook page. The internet is just an anonymous tool. Handle it with complete pragmatic disregard for what anyone else thinks if you're serious about spreading a message. And remember, ACAB includes all internet forum moderators. Getting back to my titular point, look at how QAnon took off. It's the perfect example from recent memory. It came out of nowhere, was created from whole cloth by some anonymous image board denizen, and for months was only ever being pushed by a handful of no-name people online, because those people were the only individuals with any stake in seeing it take off. And what happened? It became the biggest name in politics for one side of the aisle. There's no reason to think that something that emerges online, say today, couldn't go on to become the next big thing in a week's time. That's just the very nature of sudden internet virality. It would certainly be nice if we got some sort of progressive rallying message to take off like that, and theoretically it should even be easier, since any self-describing leftists will hopefully know enough to avoid falling into a potential pitfall like advancing something like this just for the individual glory or profit. Although I must say theoretically there, because pushing individualism has been one of capital's greatest defense mechanisms. Posting online alone will get you nowhere, but that isn't to say you should throw away the idea of internet propagandizing around your offline organization altogether, of course. But that brings me to the most important observation that us hopeful lefties can take from QAnon. Absolutely anything can become popular. Even literally something with as little basis in the real world as the Q theory. And surely, since we actually believe in our message and have reality backing us up, it stands that we should be able to get a coherent leftist message popularized if at least some of us really put some effort into it. Every organizational movement needs to spread its ideas to other people, by definition. Otherwise, it's just the worldview of one person doing nothing. And it doesn't matter what cause it's promoting. For every pair of boots on the ground, there's a logistician and a propagandist somewhere out there that got them to participate. But forming that sort of organizational structure requires no small amount of both material capacity and directional competency from someone actually committed to seeing out the fulfillment of whatever change they want to see. Unfortunately, the other significant factor weighing in here is the fact that those people, the competent and positioned to potentially direct such a cause, are all too often either readily bought out in effect by capital status quo tacitly comforting them, or otherwise cowed out of acting by a fear of state reprisal. Say what you want about the psychotic Q-pilled suburbanites willing to climb through a barricaded security window in the US Capitol directly to their imminent death by rent-a-cop. At least they were willing to commit to something they believed in. Western progressivism has scarcely seen anyone that committed to a cause and willing to actually do something about it since John Brown. I hate to say it, but the far left has really dropped the ball in the propaganda department. If the only people to have actually pulled off attacks on something like the US Houses of Congress within living memory are the reactionaries. If the domestic middle class is apparently only a handful of schizophrenic Facebook posts away from being ready to march on the state, it might as well be for our side and not for the bad guys. This isn't the first time I've addressed the practical effects of posting, while also noting that the terminally online aren't helping any cause whatsoever. But I will do it again here if I must. Avowed organisers on the left have very little idea how to practically propagandize. And I say this having seen it for years and years at the local level, wherever I go. Frankly, if more of us took a more irreverent approach like I'm suggesting now, we'd all be doing much better. Look how the local level reactionary right advertises. Easy slogans, humour, clickbait, actionable objectives, and clearly defined targets in their propaganda. And they know that you need to spam it absolutely everywhere to get your foot in the door. Keep it simple and repeat it often. I briefly outlined earlier that if you're a leftist spreading a message, you need to be shameless in spreading it around to pick up any traction. And now I'm saying it again, so hopefully the idea will stick with you. Obviously, I can't provide exact specifics catering to the current situational demands of every lefty group in the world, but everything I've said will work broadly. If you're in a new, smaller org, struggling through the teething pains of growing your early membership, consider this your wake-up call to reconsider your strategy of propaganda. Seriously, next time you're discussing this, whether formally or not, take the idea to rework your material to the rest of the group, and when they ask you if you've got any better ideas to suggest, keep exactly 3 words in mind. Simple and often. I'll give you one other example of how to put this theoretical framework into action by showing you something I did very recently. If this isn't your first time on my channel, and you've come here from one of my previous leftist theory videos, and then taken a look at my entire back catalogue to see what else I've made, you might have noticed something else I'd made here before my recent practical leftist stuff. It was a 10-minute diatribe about the internet personality James Stephanie Stirling, wherein I intentionally falsely accused them of having been a long-time employee of the British intelligence service MI6. If you saw it, you were probably more than confused about why something so dissimilar to everything else I'd made was there, and you probably wondered what it meant. Just in case you haven't seen it, and this part of the video is just making you even more confused, I'll also link it in the description for you. Well, bear with me for a minute here, because it did have an actual purpose, which I'll let you in on now. Why I made that video in particular, a few months before I turned my attention to writing a few proper ones, was just to prove a point of mine. You can come up with a premise based on absolutely no evidence whatsoever, based around someone or something just notable enough that people online will have heard of it and might even already hold a strong opinion about it, but won't be so intimately familiar with the subject matter that they're able to refute you on the spot. So, with very minimal effort on your end, you'll be able to ramble about it for, say, 10 minutes, then slap a clickbait title above it, and people online will just eat it up. I posted that video of mine about 2 months ago now, and only ever shared the link to it in a few places online. Yet from that alone, it ended up drawing in something like 5,000 views and several hundred subscribers and comments to this otherwise empty channel within just 24 hours. And I did it just to prove a point that something like that would take off just to some frequent co-collaborators of mine. And if a completely new channel on the most competitive video sharing website, peddling absolutely nothing of value, can defy all expectations to take off like that. And from having only about 1 hour's total work put into it, no less. Just imagine what anything being done properly and passionately by a team that actually believes their message and works at building consistent recognition could do. My apologies to Stirling themselves for using their likeness and name to peddle some information for a while, but I did it for a reason, and I only wanted to see how far I could get it going in just 24 hours as a theoretical test case to prove my point. Stirling's presence on screen makes chuds foam at the mouth, and I knew the newfound viewing hours gained from hate watchers, not to mention the engagement vis-a-vis enraged comments, would really spike that test case video up hard and fast for me. People are generally pretty easy to herd into watching something online once you know what they love to hate. Knowing that it's really that easy to draw in attentive eyeballs to your messaging is the first step to embracing it as a tool. If you don't know me personally and you watch this video, it's because I linked you to it, either directly or indirectly, either soon after it's published or not. And it's because I wanted you to watch it and you did. If you watch this video and no one explicitly linked it to you, and you just happened to find it out in the wild, then the extractive YouTube algorithm has evidently decided for us both that you should watch it. Big name reactionary influencers already know how this works, and they use it to great effect at mobilizing their base of fans. People are fairly easy, generally speaking, to entice into watching or reading something you put before them, especially when those people are uncritically thinking reactionaries who will eat up anything so long as it gives them an underclass to libidinally victimize. The organized left needs to become properly cogent of the power of online propaganda and begin to clue themselves into how to use it properly, and sooner rather than later. And I don't mean individual grifter pseudo-leftist entertainers that stream themselves day in, day out, speaking vacuously direct to camera for donations from teenagers either. Again, I'm talking about people who aren't practicing aesthetic politics online, but the people who want to use modern methods of communication to maximize their ability to build real organs of social cooperation in their local area. Organizers in that position specifically are the ideal target for this sort of messaging, and it's they who need to take that lesson of shameless, practical self-promotion to heart, since it's only with their efforts that the needle of progressive interests can actually be moved further along. That's the lesson for today. I hope you might have been able to find something instructive in all of this somewhere. And if you've been keeping an eye on this channel for a couple of months now, and wanted to know what that strange first Stirling video was all about, I guess now you know too. My name's Card. This has been Card Posting. Feel free to like and subscribe if you want. Either way, until next time, goodbye and have a lovely day.